Hello, Jamie from Inky&Scrappy back with my Let's Start Stamping series. I didn't know exactly where I wanted to go today. I am, it's November. I'm gonna say it's been a really hard month in the past couple of years, and so I didn't know where I wanted to go today, and I was struggling. And I think I was struggling because usually I do a birthday card for my brother in November, and it's technically his birthday if you're watching it Saturday today. And I haven't done one yet this year. Last year I did a super snarky one on my other channel because that's how him and I were to each other, and so that was where I was at. And so I was struggling to do a card for today, and I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, and so I decided to go snarky, and we'll go from there. I haven't really decided what I'm doing. I just know I want to go snarky. So I'm going to start with some Bristol Smooth cardstock. I'm going to do some watercoloring today. So this piece is 4 inches by 5 1/4. So I'll probably be cutting it down, but if I don't cut it down, it's the perfect size to mat onto a card front already. So that was kind of where I was going on my paper size. I think I'm going to keep this one clean and simple. I'm looking for my stamp platform that's not here. So I guess this one's clean. Well, semi-clean. Okay. This is the Misty. It's got the corner for lighting up things, I guess, if you have, I like this one. I like the one that I use for the normal series. I think I have stuff on it and it's set to the side because I need to prep for my card class for the month of November. So I'm bringing in red rubber today. I think we've talked about red rubber stamps. They're a little bit different to stamp with than the clear ones, which we've been working a lot on. I'll bring in this one. So on this style stamp platform, this just has my back pieces on there, or my back stamps on there permanently, so I don't pull them off. But that one you don't need to do anything with special for red rubber. It's ready to go. If you have a Misty, you have to pull out this piece for the red rubber. If you have a stamp block, you can just stamp away, as long as they have that cling mount on them. They used to have, I think, wood mount. That's how I started, with wood mount stamps. So you just peel that white backing off. That gives you the cling that you need for them. And then I just kind of line it up. I haven't decided if I want to go with my sentiment here. I was kind of thinking this way and then putting it off to the side over there. Granted, I might end up cutting this one down anyways, but let's go this way because I'm thinking I know what I want for the sentiment sometimes, or today stuck or something like that, like just and then on the inside I want to put I miss you. And so that's kind of where I was going with this one. We'll see if it works. There'll be some snark involved, I'm sure. But to line up red rubber stamps, there's a couple of options. So of course this way you can kind of see on the grid if it's kind of gonna be lined up. I think we're gonna be okay with this one. It's not totally a huge deal. The other thing you can do is bring in stamp either a piece of acrylic, like for making the shaker card, or sometimes your stamps have an acrylic piece on them, or even like this piece on them you can pull off and use that. The clear sleeves, you can definitely use those. So let's just do a sample stamping on here and make sure it looks good. I'm going to come in with VersaFine Onyx Black today. The Lawn Fawn's Jet Black ink is also watercolor friendly, as is, I think, Hero Arts is as well. I just get with red rubber, and this one is a very detailed red rubber. I think my impression is going to be better, and I'm not going to make sure that it's totally all inked up because I'm just going to make sure that it looks right. So I think we lined it up fairly good there. This is one of those, so I can pull it, I can see where it's going to be at, where it's going to land. If I need to make any adjustments, I think, I mean, I could shift it a little bit, but it's pretty good as is, so I'm just going to leave it. Now, this is just going to wipe off because it's on plastic, or acetate will wipe off as well. I usually have a sheet that's like designated for that. I don't know where it's currently at. You know, as per my usual, my desk is a mess. So I'm going to re-ink my stamp again. And of course, priming it the first time probably wasn't a bad idea either. But usually red rubber will give you a better, almost a better, I think they give a better impression than clear stamps. They just, it's a different, you know, a different medium. I didn't get enough ink there, so, or enough pressure. I think it was a pressure issue. So I think we're good there. I don't think I need to do a second inking. I just didn't hit that with enough pressure the first time. So I think we're good. Okay, so we have that one. I'm going to let it dry a little bit. You can definitely heat set it if you have a heat tool. If you don't have a heat tool, just letting it dry for, you know, I would suggest, like, you know, a lot of times I'll stamp stuff and then start the next day with it. But I'll just clear that off and call it good. So this one is Pissy Kitty from Unity Stamps. Funny story, I did not know that Unity Stamps is literally 20 minutes from me. Literally, the warehouse is 20 minutes from me. I didn't realize that until I ordered my background stamp, or my back stamps, like the made by ones. Yeah, last year. I didn't realize they were even in Minnesota until then. Yep, that's me in a nutshell. Not on top of anything. So, but they have a fun snarky line. They have some really gorgeous red rubber. I think they do some clear ones now. I don't know if I have a couple of clear ones, I do believe. But anyways, back to my card front here. So I'm going to keep the coloring fairly simple today. I am going with some distress inks. And so because this one is kind of like my memorial card, I do a memorial card. You know, I have the last year, and I did one for my dad as well. I don't know, I think it helps me deal with, you know, life in general. So I'm going to start with Hickory Smoke Distress Ink for my gray. I'm going with a gray kitty because we used to have a cat named Ashes, so of course Hickory Smoke just kind of works, right, on the farm. And Villainous Potion for my purple because purple was his favorite color. And then I just have my water here ready to, well, okay, we're going to stick to everything that's on my desk today. Duly noted. Alright, so for this one, you know, it's fairly detailed, so you can decide to go as hard as you want on your watercolor or as easy as you want on your watercolor. Like, you know, you can go extra, or you can just watercolor and just call it good. Like, don't worry about if it's shaded properly and such. So I'm using Distress Reinkers today just because I had them close at hand. I don't know if I have a Hickory Smoke in my mini distress cubes, so I will go with the Reinker. And I'm pretty sure I have Villainous Potion. But if you are using your Reinker instead of the ink pad, keep in mind that you want to do, you know, add water to it because it won't dry otherwise. It's got resins in it that'll keep it wet. And yes, so that's, you know, the only issue with Distress Reinkers if you're using the Reinker instead of the ink pad. I mean, the ink pad, kind of the same thing, but you usually end up adding water because you don't have that big puddle of ink sitting there. So I'm just gonna kind of start with a first layer here and go fairly light. Not too worried about getting it dark. Granted, I picked a color that is fairly light anyways on my gray one. feel free to, you know, whichever color medium you want to go with. That's kind of, you know, I've been going back and forth this last couple of weeks. I haven't been in a coloring mood like with my Ohuhus, and so I've been trying to do some other coloring mediums just to kind of switch it up. It happens sometimes where I just, you know, and sometimes I'll just grab a pre-done, because I like to color usually, and so a lot of times I will have a bunch of pre-done, pre-colored images, and so sometimes I like to pull from them. It just makes life a little, you know, when I'm not in the mood to color, compartmentalizing is a lot easier when you have stuff that's already prepped and ready to go. So I'm just going to lay in just the gray over the top here. Nothing fancy. So we used to have this cat named Ashes on the farm. So we went with Uncle Edgar to pick out cats because we needed cats, I guess, on the farm when we moved there. And so we got to pick out these cats, right? So we picked out this gray little kitten, and she grew up to be a mama cat. And she used to be a really good mama cat, right? And then all of a sudden, she wasn't a good mama cat. But I think now that I'm older and I understand cats a little bit better, I'm pretty sure we had a tomcat on the farm that probably took care of her babies. So we would always, like when we knew she was having kitties, we would always go and search for the kitties. That was like, you know, the thing to do. So Tom would usually always find them because they were usually always up in the hay barn. And that was his job, was to get the hay down or the straw down from the hay barn. And so he would always find them and then let me know. And then I would, you know, venture. I hated going up in the hay barn. I just didn't like it. But I would go up to the hay barn with him for kittens. Yep. To see the kittens. Because, you know, that's how I roll. I'm all about, you know, extra on the kitties, right? So now I'm just going in with a second layer, kind of just adding some of the wispies in for this wild mane here. Just kind of adding a little bit of texture. I'm not too worried about it. But we would always go up to the hay barn and find the kitties. Sometimes she would have them over the milk house and you'd have to, like, he would crawl in there because I wasn't going to crawl in there. There was bats, or the possibility of bats. And I did not do bats. I didn't even like to do the hay barn, so therefore I was not going to venture into the part of the hay barn that might have bats. Yeah. So I think we're good there. I want to bring in a pink. Let me see if I have. I'm just going to bring in that Spun Sugar quick for its little nose. I guess it wouldn't have had to be pink. I could have gone with something else, right? But I'm going to bring in a pink nose here. The whisker part here. Do I want to go gray? Do I want to go pink with a little bit of gray in there? Maybe. We'll see. We'll give it a 5 o'clock shadow. It's got some gray on top of its pink whiskers. Okay. Or pink, whatever. All right. So we would go up there, find the kitties, and then, you know, befriend the little kittens. And Ashes was pretty cool about it. She wasn't, you know, too bad about it. As long as they were old enough. If they were too little, then she would rehide them. And then, yep, you guessed it. It would be, you know, trying to find them again. Kind of like our cats at the farm now. They kind of do the same thing. When they're little, they like to hide them. Go from there. So I try to let my gray dry before I bring in my next color. This is more just so I don't get colors that run together. I really don't want purple paws. I mean, if I end up with purple paws, I'll live with it and I'll be okay with it. I'm not, you know, gonna cry about it. That's what happens when, you know, you play with paint, I guess. Get purple paws. So this time for my mug, I'm kind of trying to do where my shadows are going to be. I do want my mug to kind of look rounded, and so therefore by going first on the outside, kind of following the lines here is going to kind of give you some curvature, maybe where some of your shadow should be or sit, and then of course, you know, going from there. So usually to do that, so it's dark the first layer, then I'm going to add some more water to this and add in a second layer, trying to re-wet or work wet on wet. If you work fast enough, you can work wet on wet. Did I work fast enough today? Probably not, but you know, we'll try it. So I'm just kind of re-wetting, and distressed ink really reacts well to water, so that's why I like watercoloring with them. They usually give me a fairly decent blend without the harsh water line. I should, you know, like the dry to wet line. So usually you can re-wet it enough that you're going to get a nice enough blend there without having too harsh of a water line. And I want to come in with, try to find a clean spot on your towel. I just want to pick up a little bit of the ink that maybe in the middle here, just to kind of make it a little bit like a shinier light spot. But I think we're good there. I need to add maybe some, I don't want to say blue to the underside of the eye, but I need to add, let's see if I go really light on my purple here. Just kind of pull in just a little bit here. Give the eye just a little teeny tiny bit of life, like it has some, you know. Usually I go with a really watered down blue to make it look like it has a little bit of moisture to it, or a little bit of depth to it. But I went with the purple today. I think it'll be alright. That underside baggy eye part, let's go with the darker gray and see if I can make it look like bags under the eyes. There we go. So I think that's pretty good. I'm going to let it dry just a little bit. I'm going to see if I can find a little teeny tiny sentiment that I can stamp on that mug. I just think it would be fun. Do I want to do a drop shadow underneath? I mean, we got purple and gray. Maybe I can mix the two and see if I can get a different shade here, just to add a little bit more color to. There we go. So there is my image colored. I'm going to let this dry. I actually have to do well, not two takes today, but I'm going to have to split this one up in between days. So I will be back with, you know, the next step in this one. I think I like it as is. I don't think I'm going to I'm just going to add a sentiment to the side yet, and then I'll probably mat it on a purple that matches. And then if I can find a sentiment that's going to fit on there, I will probably do that. But I will be back and we will finish that in a little bit. So it's all dry. You know, this is the next day. It's, you know, I'm being slow. So this is the one, I had a few different ideas for sentiments on this one. I ended up pulling in some ink road stamps for it, but I wanted to show you, you can get some Delusions from, I don't know if Ranger still makes them or if Stampers Anonymous does them now. I'm not exactly sure, but I know you can still get some of them. If you're looking for some sassier sayings that maybe are a little bit cleaner, the Delusions line by Diane are really good. So, you know, those were some of the ones I looked at putting on there. These would work really good with any of those, you know, the grumpy animal type ones. Now I could go with a coffee stain because Thomas was not a coffee drinker. He used to call it dirty bean water. Yes, I love me some dirty bean water, which I always found was hilarious because in high school he would drink cappuccino, like, you know, cappuccino's coffee based. He just, yeah, it was, you know, one of those things. So I'm thinking I'm going to go with the Oh Look, Another Glorious Morning off to the side there. And then for this one, I wanted to put something on the mug. Probably a dumpster fire sentiment because, you know, that's where I'm at. Be the dumpster fire you want to see in the world. Or Hot Mess Express would work. What is even happening? Any of those would work. You know, they're small enough on that mug. So just find either a smaller sentiment if you wanted to. You don't have to add anything onto the mug, but if you wanted to add something onto the mug, that smaller sentiment will work well. And I'm going to have to put in this one back in again. And since these ones are all clear, I don't need to worry about lining everything up before I stamp it. You know, doing that test stamp to make sure it's all lined up. This way I should be able to just stamp and go on these. And I'm just going to bring in that VersaFine Onyx Black again for this one because that'll stamp nicely over that watercolor. So VersaFine. And that's just a bonus sentiment. You want, you know, definitely wouldn't need to put that one on there if you didn't want to have it on there. My paper shifted, so it's kind of hard to read. It is what it is. Let's see here. And then I'm going to go in with the Oh Look, Another Glorious Morning. Makes me sick. I'm going to put this down by my grounding line. It's not going to be centered, but I think that'll be alright. Let's see if we're... should be fairly straight there. Now for this one I think I'm going to go in with the purple. I think I'm going to go in with Villainous Potion. I'm going to stamp with my Distress Oxide Villainous Potion. You can definitely do the other, you know, the Distress ink. Just make sure you're using a stamp style platform because it's probably going to take you a few more stamping than one to get a good coverage because it's not really designed as a stamping ink. But any other dye inks would work for that. I think my ink pad is in need of a re-inking. I have no idea why. This might be my favorite purple color. Possibly. Possibly totally. Okay, so I have my sentiment done. Oh, maybe it didn't shift. It's just, I don't know. I might have pressed too much. Anyways, so we're done with that one. Let's grab, actually, let's clean this one up a little bit here. I'm going to bring in a Tailored Expression set. It's Radiate Positivity. It just, there's a Missing You sentiment on it, so that's the one that I want on the inside for this one. So I'm just going to put this one in here. Do I want to do partial stamp of the kitty? Alright, let's do the Missing You. I'm thinking I'm going to do a partial stamp of the kitty on that side, but let's start with this one first. And I am just going to stamp this one, hopefully a one and done. Bring in another magnet there. With the VersaFine Onyx Black again. And then just that one. Now, let's see here. I'm going to need to fold this and kind of move it so I can get the other stamp on there. Because that kitty's going to be quite a bit bigger, right? So let's go this way. Find my magnet here. I should be able to move that on up. Let's see. I just don't want to cover up my lettering on this one when I'm going to add this in. This just kind of, I don't know, brings that outside of the card inside. What color shall I do? I suppose I could do that purple, I guess. Gray would work because the kitty is gray. Definitely go that route. I'm going to bring in, it's not one that we've used before, but Mementos works really good for alcohol coloring too. Not that I need it for that. But I'm going to bring in the London Fog one. It's like a gray one. I don't use these too frequently, so it should be fairly juicy. I think it's a newer one. I was hoping it was going to be a lighter gray when I bought it, and it's a little bit darker than I had been, you know, hoping for. So I'm just going to add that one on there, and it just brings that inside out. Clean off my stamp again. I'm just using a microfiber cloth. I think they're Scotch microfiber, like cleaning towels. They work really well for cleaning off your stamps without leaving any of that fuzz behind. Which, if you know what happens when you leave, like, fuzz left behind on your stamp will end up giving you fuzzy lines sometimes and funky stuff. So if you end up with that issue, maybe it's what you are cleaning your stamps off with. So I've found that those ones are a fairly easily accessible option, is that microfiber cloth. Okay, so I'm just bringing in purple cardstock to kind of go with my, bring out the purples in my watercolor and stamping on the front of, whoops, my panel here. I'll just pop that on the front. The joys of glue is you have a little bit of wiggle room, or a little bit of time to wiggle. I think we're good there. This nose is really light. I might end up going back with a black gel pen here. I don't know if any of my kitties have pink noses. I think most of them have. Well, maybe. I haven't looked that close. I think the black ones have little black noses. Brown Noser obviously has a brown tinted nose because his nickname is Brown Noser. It was not his original name, it was his nickname, and it kind of stuck. So I'm going to come in with my black Jelly Roll pen. This one is a Jelly Roll 08. Make sure it works on a side piece of paper, just so you know that ink is moving well, and then you'll have better luck with it. So I'm going to do two things here. I'm going to go and do his eyes here. This will make them stand out a lot better. It adds a little bit of gloss and shine. And then I think I want to do his nose. I'm just not content with that light pink. I think I like that better. And you could wait for this to dry and put glossy accents over the eyes if you wanted to, but it's definitely not needed. So in this cup, it probably more than likely has ice cream or applesauce or anything that's not coffee. Hot chocolate. Yeah, all of those things. So there we go. That is my completed card today. We kept this one fairly you know, fairly simple. I didn't wait for it to totally dry, so I did smear a little bit, but it'd be alright. You know. Oh look, another glorious morning. Makes me sick. And then of course, just that missing you on the inside. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this one and have a great Saturday if you're watching it on Saturday, or, you know, week ahead. May you have a good one. Bye! Okay, I lied. I wanted to add glossy accents to the eyes and the nose. Once they dried, they kind of dried dull and I wanted them to be shiny. And then I added some glossy accents into the liquid in the mug as well. I'm going to add some white highlights on to the little claws here that I didn't really do anything with on the other one, just to kind of make them pop a little bit. Not a whole lot. You could definitely go in and add some more. This one is a really fine one. This one's the 05. You're not going to see a whole lot of it, but I wanted to keep it fairly, you know, light or thin on those ones. But you can come in with a number 10 jelly roll if you want to add some more highlights into the fur. You know, just kind of following some of those lines to add a few highlights. If you didn't feel, I don't know, if you wanted some more depth and dimension to your watercoloring. Can add some little white dots to go with this little black dots if you want. I'm not going to do a whole lot here, just wanted to show you that you can add some white highlights here and there. I'm not great at the white highlight thing, at least I don't think I am, so, you know, take it with a grain of salt. So the other thing you can do is, if you want to add maybe some white lines back in on your mug to make it look shinier, you can definitely add some of those white lines. I've read that you can do like white right along your black, and that'll give you a different highlight look to it. But it's kind of a fun one to do. Other than that, that's kind of, you know, the gist of my highlighting. I don't do a whole lot normally anyways, so, but I figured I'd show you just, you know, me adding all the extra things, because I tend to add extras after the camera's off sometimes, and, you know, I forget. Maybe you want to see it too. So there you go. I don't know if it added much of anything, but it's there. So anyways, there we are. That is it. So okay, now have a good rest of your day. Bye again.